So looking back on it, the 2012 recruiting class for high school has to be one of the weakest ones in the last 15-20 years. Now, if you're looking at every single player in that recruiting class, the best player is probably one of either Gary Harris or Steven Adams, who, while both of them are really good NBA players, neither of them have ever been All-Stars and neither of them may ever be All-Stars. There's a good chance neither of them are All-Stars. The top recruits that year included Anthony Bennett, who we all know is one of the worst #1 picks of all time, Nerlens Noel, who has just been a disappointment in the NBA, and the best player in that high school class at the time is the guy I'm going to be making this video on, and it's Shabazz Muhammad. So basically, I knew about the kind of what's going to be in the title. I knew that he faked his age. I knew his dad faked his age. The more I look into all of this, the more I just find it crazy what happened to Shabazz Muhammad, not just 5 years ago, but what happened to him over the course of his pretty much entire life until he set foot in UCLA. And also in this video, I'm going to talk about what's happened to Shabazz Muhammad since going into the NBA, because unless you're like an actual NBA fan, he hasn't been on a single relevant team in his NBA career. So you may not even know anything about Shabazz Muhammad past UCLA. So before we get on to this video, we are doing a daily December, and the initial goal was to hit 70,000 subscribers, and I don't know how. We've gotten over 6,000 subscribers in the last 2 days, and we're currently over 73,000 subscribers. So a big thank you to everybody that subscribed over the last couple of days. I know a lot of that's coming from the Julian Newman video, which is just completely blown up. But let's see if we can get, I don't know, if we can get 75,000 by the 15th. I know we're currently on track to realistically get that by like tomorrow or the next day, but one step at a time. 75,000 by the 15th, so we've got, 5 more days to get to 75,000. It's definitely going to be tough, and if we keep going the way we are, we're going to hit it, but obviously it's going to have to slow down at some stage. So if you guys like basketball content, subscribe. Sorry about taking too long with that. I'm just kind of in shock at how much the channel's grown, and a big thank you to everyone that's new to the channel. But anyway, now let's get on to the video. So as I said, Shabazz Muhammad was the #1 recruit in the 2012 recruiting class. He decided to go to UCLA in what his dad called a business decision. He played really well as a freshman in UCLA. However, in March 2013, 3 months before the NBA draft, it was actually found out that Shabazz Muhammad was actually a year older than he said he was. His dad insisted that he was 19 years old at the time and he was born in Nevada. However, there was birth records for him in LA stating that he was actually an entire year older than he said he was. And a few minutes after insisting that he was 19 years old, his dad admitted that he was 20 years old. He then pretty much tried to bribe the reporter that found all of this out, saying that Shabazz Muhammad was going to be a star in the NBA and that he needed a publicist, and that if they didn't post it, they could become his publicist. At the time of this discovery, Shabazz was a guaranteed top 5 pick in the NBA draft. And with the 2013 NBA draft being so up in the air, a guy who could have easily gone #1. On draft day, the top 2 projected picks were Nerlens Noel and Ben McLemore. Yep, that's how bad the 2013 draft was. And then other guys that people thought could have gone #1 were guys like Alex Len and maybe Otto Porter. But in the end, Anthony Bennett went #1. None of the players I've mentioned are even close to being all-stars in the NBA. That's how bad this draft was. And as a freshman in college, Shabazz Muhammad was probably the best out of all of these guys. And with Nerlens Noel's injury, I wouldn't have been surprised had he gone #1 in the NBA draft, had this whole age thing not come out. And obviously the fact that he faked his age is crazy, but the crazier thing is that his dad basically mapped out his entire life from a young age. From the time Shabazz was born, everything was geared towards him making the NBA. His dad's goal in life was to make all of his kids professional athletes. And when he was interviewed, he said doctors want their kids to be doctors and that he was an athlete and he wanted his kids all to be athletes. And when Shabazz was born, his dad made sure that his name was something that was marketable. So the first name Shabazz was only chose because his dad thought it would be a good sounding name for a professional athlete, which is crazy. The guy was just born and his dad was preparing him to be a pro athlete. So when you know the entire backstory, is it really that much of a surprise that his dad made up a fake age for him? Like, the one way of pretty much guaranteeing that he's got a physical advantage over most of the competition is playing him against younger competition, and that's exactly what he did. And while 1 year may not be the biggest deal, we've all seen pictures of a high school basketball player that played at 30, but 1 year is still a massive difference, especially when you're between the ages of, say, 15 and 17. And that's when the scouts really start to watch you play. And when Shabazz Muhammad cemented himself as probably the best player in the nation, and at worst #2 behind Nerlens Noel in high school. So how much did this affect Shabazz? Obviously, the numbers he was putting up as a freshman looked a lot better if he was a freshman than they would have as a sophomore. But at the same time, Shabazz was still an unbelievable basketball player at the time, and it was a relatively weak draft. A lot of mock drafts, because of the entire age thing, had Shabazz Muhammad going in the late first round, a bit like with Thon Maker in 2016, when he was actually drafted in the lottery. So he was drafted about 10 spots higher than he was expected to, but at the same time, 10 spots lower than he would have had he been a year younger. Regardless of what age he was, regardless of everything in his past, Shabazz did make the NBA and make millions of dollars. So obviously his dad's plan ended up working. But how did he get on while he was in the NBA? And the crazy thing is that a lot of you guys may not even know how he got on in the NBA. But he played with the Minnesota Timberwolves and never made the NBA playoffs. He had 2 seasons where he played more than 40 games. And after his sophomore year, his points per game just went down and down and down. Last season, he played with the Milwaukee Bucks. Last season, he was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, where he averaged 8.5 points per game, which wasn't too bad at all. And he actually averaged 6.3 points per game in the playoffs, but only saw the floor in 4 of the 7 games against the Boston Celtics. Right now, he's playing in the Chinese CBA with the Brave Dragons, where he's actually one of the leading scorers in the league, averaging 27.5 points per game. Shabazz Muhammad is still an elite professional basketball player. He's still a guy who's going to make millions upon millions in his life from basketball, playing in the CBA and as one of the top players there, where the money is not bad at all because of how popular basketball is in China. And even though he didn't have an NBA career to write home about, he still played in the playoffs. He played 4 games. He had a couple of good years in Minnesota. And while I wouldn't call him a major success for where he was drafted in that draft, it's one of the worst drafts in recent memory. And even though he was 1 pick ahead of Giannis, no one predicted how good Giannis was going to become. And he's honestly had as good a career as some guys that were drafted ahead of him. He's had a much better career than Anthony Bennett, and he's had probably a similar enough level career to guys like Alex Len, Ben McLemore, maybe Trey Burke until he went to the Knicks, Michael Carter-Williams. And to be honest, it's likely we do see Shabazz Muhammad back in the NBA. So his basketball career in general has been a huge success. And to me, this is just crazy because it shows the lengths certain parents will go to make sure their kids are professional athletes. Like, a lot of people complain about LeVar Ball and say that he's pushing his kids too much, obviously taking control of their careers. But not even LeVar Ball has faked the age of any of his kids. So anyway, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.